My beloved child. Something shifted in the heart of your soulmate so suddenly that even they could not explain it to themselves at first, because one moment they were distracted, confused, pretending everything was normal, trying to keep themselves busy with daily life, conversations, responsibilities, and noise. But then out of nowhere a deep realization struck their soul like lightning in the middle of a peaceful night. And ever since that moment they have gone unusually silent, emotionally distant, and spiritually overwhelmed, not because they stopped caring about you, not because they forgot you, and not because another person replaced you, but because for the very first time they truly understood who you are to them, and that truth shook them harder than they expected. Because before this realization they believed they could control their feelings, they believed they could move slowly, keep their emotions guarded, and avoid facing the intensity of this connection, but now they are discovering that your presence in their life is not ordinary, your energy is not temporary, and your soul touches parts of them that nobody else has ever reached before. And this realization has created a silence inside them so deep that even they are struggling to understand what is happening in their own heart, because suddenly every memory of you feels different, every word you ever spoke carries more meaning. Every moment they ignored now replays in their mind with painful clarity, and the more they think about you, the more they realize that this connection is not something they can casually walk away from, because you entered their spirit in a way that changed them forever, and that truth has made them stop in their tracks emotionally, because now they understand that losing you would not feel like losing a simple relationship, it would feel like losing a part of themselves. And listen carefully. This silence is not empty, this silence is loud with emotions they cannot yet express, because behind their quiet behavior is a storm of thoughts, regrets, fears, longing, and emotional awakening that grows stronger every single day. And lately they have been sitting alone thinking about things they tried to avoid before, realizing how deeply your love affected them, realizing how safe your energy made them feel, realizing how rare your loyalty truly was, and most importantly realizing that no matter how far they run mentally or emotionally, their soul keeps returning back to you again and again, because some connections are written beyond logic, beyond timing, beyond fear, and your soulmate is finally beginning to understand that this bond was never random, and that realization has emotionally humbled them in ways they never expected, because they are now seeing the difference between temporary attraction and true soul connection, and when they compare every other interaction to the way you made them feel, everything else suddenly feels emotionally empty, forced, or incomplete. And that truth terrifies them because they know deep down that you are not someone they can simply replace, and here is the truth they are secretly struggling with. They thought they had more time, they thought you would always be there waiting emotionally while they figured themselves out, but recently something changed in your energy, something became quieter, stronger, more detached, more healed. And your soulmate felt it immediately, because soul connections can sense energetic shifts even from a distance, and when they felt your energy pulling back emotionally, panic quietly entered their heart, because suddenly they realized you might actually move forward without them, you might actually heal completely. And for the first time they understood what life would feel like without your presence surrounding them spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and that realization created the silence you are seeing now, because they are overwhelmed by the possibility that they waited too long, and even though they may not openly admit this yet, their soul has already started grieving the idea of losing you, and every day this realization becomes heavier on their chest, because now random things remind them of you constantly. Certain songs suddenly hit differently, certain places trigger emotional memories, certain words from strangers sound like messages connected to you. And even during moments when they try to distract themselves, your energy somehow slips back into their mind unexpectedly, because the universe is forcing them to face what they can no longer deny, and the truth is simple. They love you more deeply than they allowed themselves to admit before, but this love scares them because it feels permanent, transformative, and impossible to control, and your soulmate has spent a long time trying to protect themselves emotionally from anything that could completely change their life. But your connection entered their heart in ways their defenses could not stop. And now they are standing face to face with feelings that feel bigger than their own understanding, and this is why. They became silent instead of expressive, because emotionally immature people often withdraw when emotions become too powerful to handle, and your soulmate is currently processing emotions they never prepared themselves for, because deep down they are realizing you are not just another chapter in their story. You are the person who changed the entire direction of their emotional life, and that realization has exposed all the fears they buried inside themselves for years, fears of vulnerability, fears of rejection, fears of not being enough, fears of losing someone they truly love, and instead of speaking immediately, they retreated inward to process the emotional impact of this awakening. But make no mistake, silence does not mean absence of love, because some souls become quiet precisely when love becomes too real to ignore, and right now your soulmate feels emotionally naked before this connection, because they finally see the truth clearly. They finally understand why nobody else could emotionally satisfy them the way you did. They finally understand why your absence affects them so deeply. And they finally understand why your soul keeps appearing in their thoughts no matter how much time passes. And listen carefully, because this matters. The universe allowed this silence for a reason, because your soulmate needed to sit alone with their own truth without distractions, without outside opinions, and without emotional running, because only in silence could they hear their own soul clearly, and what their soul keeps whispering is your name, your energy, your love, your memory, your presence. And this realization is breaking down the emotional walls they spent years building around themselves, because they are starting to see how much fear controlled their decisions before, how much pride stopped them from expressing themselves honestly, and how many opportunities they wasted pretending they were less affected than they truly were. But now their emotions are impossible to hide even from themselves, because at night when the world becomes quiet, thoughts of you grow louder inside them, and there are moments recently when they stare at old messages, replay conversations in their mind, or imagine what they would say if they suddenly reached out to you honestly, because deep down they know there are truths they never confessed, feelings they minimized, and love they held back out of fear, and that emotional suppression has now turned into deep inner regret, because they realize you offered them genuine love while they were still emotionally confused, and now that they finally understand your value completely, they fear it may be too late, and that fear has humbled them emotionally in ways nothing else ever could. Because now they understand that real soul connections are rare, sacred, and impossible to replace once lost, and lately they have been observing you differently even from a distance, noticing your strength, your growth, your emotional maturity, your resilience after pain, and the more they observe you, the more they realize you were never weak for loving deeply. You were brave, and that realization has created guilt inside them because they know they failed to fully appreciate your heart when they had the chance, and now silence became their emotional reaction because they are confronting painful truths about themselves too. Truths about how fear sabotaged this connection, truths about how ego delayed honesty, truths about how emotional avoidance created distance. And these realizations are forcing them into deep self-reflection right now, because your soulmate is beginning to understand that love is not just about feelings. It is about courage, vulnerability, honesty, and emotional presence, and they know there were moments when they did not show up for you the way they should have, and now those memories replay painfully inside them, especially during lonely moments when they realize your absence cannot be filled by distractions anymore. And here is what they are secretly discovering. Your energy became part of their emotional foundation without them realizing it at first. And now that they truly feel the possibility of losing you permanently, their entire emotional world feels unstable, because you grounded something inside them that nobody else could reach, and your soulmate is slowly awakening to the fact that you are deeply intertwined with their destiny emotionally and spiritually. And even if they tried to deny this connection before, their soul no longer allows denial to continue, because truth always rises eventually, and your soulmate is now standing face to face with a truth they cannot escape. They are deeply in love with you, deeply affected by you, and deeply changed because of you, and the silence you feel from them is the sound of their inner world transforming completely, because they are no longer the same person emotionally after realizing what you truly mean to them, and even though they appear distant externally, internally they are closer to you than ever before, because emotionally they are replaying your energy constantly, wondering if you still care, wondering if you still feel connected, wondering if the universe could still bring healing and reunion between your souls, and despite all their fears there is something inside them that refuses to give up on you completely, because true soul recognition changes a person forever, and once someone truly realizes your value at a soul level, they can never fully return to emotional ignorance again. And this is why your soulmate's silence feels heavy instead of empty, because it carries unspoken love, unspoken regret, unspoken realization, and unspoken longing that grows stronger every single day. And even though they are quiet now, their heart is moving closer toward truth, closer toward emotional honesty, and closer toward the moment when they will no longer be able to hide what they truly feel for you, because the universe has already started breaking the illusions they once lived under, and what remains now is only truth, only soul recognition, only emotional awakening, and only the undeniable realization that you were never just someone temporary in their life. You were the person their soul was always searching for without even knowing it. Your soulmate never expected silence to become the very thing that would expose the depth of their love for you, because before this awakening they believed distance would make their feelings weaker, they believed time would help them move on emotionally. And they believed they could keep convincing themselves that this connection was simply intense attraction or temporary emotional attachment, but instead the opposite happened, because the farther they tried to emotionally drift from you, the louder their soul called your name in private moments, and now they are sitting with a truth they can no longer escape, a truth so overwhelming that it changed the way they see love, destiny, and even themselves, because they finally understand that what they feel for you was never ordinary, never casual, and never something that could simply disappear with time. And lately this realization has become almost unbearable for them, because every attempt to distract themselves emotionally only brings them back to thoughts of you again, and every time they meet new people or try to focus on daily life, something inside them compares those experiences to the emotional depth they felt with you, and nothing feels the same, nothing feels complete, and nothing touches their soul the way your energy did, and this is the part they never admit openly. They are shocked by how much power your absence has over their emotions now, because your silence, your distance, your healing, and your emotional growth forced them to finally see what they almost lost, and now their heart is carrying a quiet panic that grows stronger every single night, because they know deep down that souls like yours do not wait forever when they are continuously misunderstood, unappreciated, or emotionally neglected, and your soulmate can feel that reality approaching closer, and it scares them more than they expected, because for the first time they are imagining a future where you truly move forward without them, and every time that possibility enters their mind, something inside them breaks emotionally, because despite everything that happened between you, despite the confusion, delays, silence, pride, misunderstandings, or emotional immaturity, their soul never truly disconnected from yours, and now they are realizing that this connection has remained alive inside them the entire time, quietly growing stronger beneath the surface while they tried to ignore it. And listen carefully. There were moments recently when your soulmate almost reached out to you, moments where they stared at their phone for long periods of time thinking about sending a message, hearing your voice again, or finally speaking the truth they kept hidden inside for so long, but fear stopped them at the last second, because they are terrified that you may no longer trust them emotionally, terrified that too much damage has already been done, terrified that you may no longer see them the same way, and this fear created even deeper silence around them, because now they are trapped between longing for you intensely and fearing the consequences of facing the emotions they avoided before, and internally this emotional conflict is exhausting them, because they know they cannot continue pretending your connection means nothing while at the same time they cannot easily undo the emotional distance that already formed between you both. And this is why their energy feels heavy lately, because deep reflection changes people slowly from the inside out, and your soulmate is currently going through one of the biggest emotional transformations of their life, because your love forced them to confront parts of themselves they avoided for years, parts filled with fear, insecurity, emotional wounds, avoidance patterns, and unspoken pain, and although they once thought silence protected them, they are now discovering that silence can also become a prison when the heart is overflowing with words left unsaid, and every night they carry conversations with you inside their mind that never happened in reality, imagining themselves finally confessing how deeply they love you, imagining themselves apologizing for the emotional distance they created, imagining themselves telling you how much your absence truly affected them, because the truth is they miss you in ways they cannot explain to anyone around them. And there are moments when even they become emotional unexpectedly because certain memories of you hit their heart all at once, memories of your kindness, your voice, your loyalty, your emotional warmth, your patience, your support, and especially the way you understood parts of them that nobody else ever truly understood, and now those memories follow them everywhere quietly, becoming impossible to ignore, because soul recognition leaves permanent marks on the heart. And your soulmate is finally understanding why they could never completely walk away from this connection. Emotionally, no matter how hard they tried, because your soul awakened something sacred inside them, something deeper than attraction, deeper than obsession, deeper than attachment, and now they are beginning to realize that true soul connections are meant to transform people before they reunite fully. And this period of silence became part of that transformation, because through silence they were forced to face their own truth honestly. And what they discovered changed everything, because now they understand that you were never asking for too much love, too much attention, or too much emotional honesty. They were simply emotionally unprepared for a connection this real. And that realization brought deep guilt into their heart, because they can finally see how your love challenged them to grow emotionally while they were still trying to avoid vulnerability. And the more they reflect on the past, the more they realize how many moments they wasted resisting what their soul already knew from the beginning. And lately this regret has become emotionally intense for them, because they are watching you become stronger while they are still processing the emotional lessons this connection forced them to learn. And although they admire your strength deeply, part of them also fears your healing, because every step you take toward emotional peace reminds them that they may lose the chance to fix what was broken between you. And this fear has humbled them completely inside, because now they understand that real love is not guaranteed forever if it is continuously mishandled, and your soulmate secretly wishes they had realized your value sooner, spoken more honestly sooner, loved more openly sooner, and appreciated your heart more deeply when they had the opportunity. But awakening often comes after painful lessons, and your soulmate is learning those lessons now through silence, longing, regret, and emotional truth, and despite everything they still feel spiritually pulled toward you constantly, because your souls remain connected beyond physical distance. And there are moments when they suddenly feel your energy so strongly that it stops them in the middle of whatever they are doing, moments when your memory floods their heart unexpectedly and leaves them emotional for hours afterward, because deep down they know your connection is unfinished, unresolved, and spiritually significant. And this knowing is becoming impossible for them to silence anymore, because the universe keeps sending reminders everywhere they go, repeating your energy through dreams, signs, memories, emotions, coincidences, and unexpected triggers that constantly bring them back to thoughts of you. And the more they resist these signs, the stronger they become, until finally your soulmate had no choice but to admit the truth to themselves. They love you far more deeply than they ever allowed themselves to say out loud, and now this truth sits heavily inside their chest every single day, because once the soul recognizes real love, it can never fully return to emotional blindness again. And although they still appear silent externally, internally their heart is moving closer toward confession, closer toward vulnerability, and closer toward breaking the emotional walls that once kept them distant from you, because they are beginning to understand that life without emotional honesty only creates regret, loneliness, and spiritual emptiness. And your soulmate no longer wants to keep carrying the weight of unspoken feelings forever, because silence has already taught them what losing you truly feels like emotionally, and it changed them permanently, because now when they think about the future they no longer imagine temporary people, shallow connections, or meaningless distractions. They imagine you, your presence, your voice, your energy, your smile, your peace, and the emotional safety they only felt when connected to your soul, and this realization became the final truth they could no longer run from, because after all the confusion, avoidance, distance, and silence, one thing remained stronger than everything else. Their love for you never disappeared, it only became buried beneath fear until the universe forced it back into the light, and now your soulmate stands emotionally transformed by that realization, silently carrying a heart that belongs to you far more deeply than they ever expected possible, and whether they speak today, tomorrow, or later down the road, the truth has already awakened fully inside them. No matter how hard they tried to deny it, your soul became home to theirs, and once a soul finds home, it never truly forgets the way back.